So you want to be a teacher. Awesome. And you know that means you're going to be using technology, right? But here's the thing. Having a classroom full of shiny new gadgets is one thing. Knowing how to actually use them to help students learn, that's a whole different ballgame. It's really not about the tech itself. It's about how you think about the tech. Okay, just picture this for a second. It's day one. You walk into your very first classroom, and it is loaded. Laptops for every kid, tablets, a giant smartboard on the wall. It's super exciting, but let's be real, it's also a little terrifying. And you're probably thinking, okay, now what? What on earth am I supposed to do with all this? So where do you even start? Well, like with pretty much any big new thing, you start small. And for most teachers, that first step is usually doing something you already know how to do, just in a slightly new way. We're talking about a simple direct replacement. Yeah, that's usually it. You take that paper worksheet you were going to hand out, and you just turn it into a PDF. The students are doing the exact same thing, just on a screen now. And you know what? That's a totally natural place to start. It's a safe first move. But it definitely gets you thinking, is this all there is? Because surely all this tech can do more than just be digital paper. And to figure that out, we need some frameworks to help us see the bigger picture. All right, let's jump into our first framework. It's called the SAMR model. And the best way to think about it is like a ladder. It helps you look at how you're using tech and see exactly where you are on that ladder, and maybe more importantly, where you could go next. So SAMR was developed by a guy named Ruben Puentedora, and it's basically an acronym that breaks down tech use into 4 different levels. It's a really powerful tool because it's designed to help you see the difference between just kind of improving what you already do and completely transforming it. Okay, so let's climb this ladder rung by rung. Down at the very bottom, you've got substitution. That's our PDF worksheet we were just talking about. Simple swap, no real change. One step up is augmentation. Now, the tech is still a substitute, but it adds a little something extra. So maybe that digital worksheet now has a link to a YouTube video that explains a concept. It's better, for sure, but it's still just a worksheet. Now, this is where things get interesting. The next 2 steps are huge. At modification, the tech actually lets you redesign the whole task. And at the very top, you get to redefinition. This is where you use technology to create assignments that were totally impossible before. Think, instead of writing a report, your students create a collaborative podcast series. And this right here, this is the big aha moment of the whole SAMR model. The ladder is really split into 2 halves. Those bottom rungs, substitution and augmentation, that's all about enhancement. You're using tech to do the same old stuff, just a little bit better. But those top 2 rungs, modification and redefinition, whoa, that's about transformation. That's where you're using tech to create brand new ways for students to learn. All right, let's shift gears to our next framework. If SAMR is like a ladder for your actions, I want you to think of this next one, TPACK, more like a map for your knowledge. It's all about this balancing act you have to do to make your teaching really, really effective. Because here's the deal. Being great at teaching with technology isn't really about being some kind of tech genius. It's more like being a master chef. You have to know how to expertly blend 3 key ingredients: what you're teaching, how you're teaching it, and the tools you're using. So the TPACK framework says you're juggling 3 big areas of knowledge. First, you've got content knowledge. That's just knowing your stuff, knowing biology or history or whatever you teach inside and out. Second is pedagogical knowledge. This is the art of teaching itself, knowing how to explain things, how to manage a classroom, how students actually learn. And third, you have technological knowledge, which is basically knowing what tools are out there and how to make them work. Now, take a look at this diagram. The real magic isn't in any one of these circles by itself. It happens where they start to overlap. The goal, the absolute sweet spot, is right there in the middle, where your content, your pedagogy, and your technology all come together perfectly. That is effective teaching with tech. That's TPACK. Okay, so we've looked at the teacher's actions with SAMR and the teacher's knowledge with TPACK, but, we're kind of missing the most important person in the room, aren't we? So now it's time to flip the script and look at everything from the student's point of view. And for that, we have our third framework, PICRAT. So far, all our questions have been about the teacher, right? What does the teacher know? What is the teacher doing? What kind of lesson did the teacher design? But PICRAT makes us ask this totally different and, honestly, maybe the most important question of all. What are the students actually doing? Are they just sitting there passively watching something on a screen? Or are they actively using that technology to create something new? So, the PICRAT model is basically a grid that's built from these two simple questions. The first question is all about the student. Are they being passive, just watching? Interactive, maybe doing a quick digital quiz? Or are they being creative, using the tech to make something? And the second question looks at what the teacher is doing. Is the tech just a replacement for an old tool? Does it amplify the lesson, or does it totally transform it?
And this grid right here shows you just how powerful this way of thinking is. Check it out. One single tool, like Nearpod, can be used in a ton of different ways. Let's start down in the bottom left corner. The teacher is just showing lecture slides. The student is passive, and the tech is just a replacement for a projector. Simple enough. But now let's go all the way up to the top right corner. Here, students are using the exact same tool to creatively work together on research. The whole lesson has been transformed. It's the same software, but the learning experience, it's a universe of difference.
So, SAMR, TPACK, and PICRAT. I know, it can feel like a lot of acronyms, but here's the key. Don't think of them as competing rules you have to follow. Think of them as different tools in your teaching toolkit. And that really is the big takeaway. Don't get bogged down trying to memorize all the definitions. Just think of these frameworks as different pairs of glasses, different lenses. Each one helps you look at your classroom from a new angle and ask sharper, better questions about what you're doing and, most importantly, why you're doing it.
So let's just break it down one last time, nice and simple. SAMR, that's your ladder. It makes you ask, am I just improving an old task, or am I truly transforming it? TPACK is your balancing act. It makes you check in and ask, are my content, my teaching methods, and my tech all working together? And PICRAT, that's your student-focused lens. It keeps you honest by forcing you to ask, what are my students actually doing right now?
And it all really comes down to this one powerful idea. It doesn't matter if you have the fanciest, newest app or just a basic word processor. The tool itself isn't what counts. What really matters is the thought, the strategy, the teaching, the human experience you build around that tool.
So, as you start thinking about your own future classroom, the real question isn't, what tech am I going to use? The real question is, what questions am I going to ask myself? Are you going to ask if you're really transforming learning? Will you ask if your knowledge is in balance? And most importantly, will you stop and ask what your students are creating? Because asking those questions, well, that's what's going to make all the difference.